Hi guys, it's Lewis from Bunkered here and happy to be joined by Joe Miller, European Product Manager for Srixon. Joe, thanks for taking the time to be at Clydeway.
No problem at all,
today.
Pleasure.
And what a facility we've got here. Just talk us through some of the things that we've got in this room.
Well, obviously we're very fortunate at Sumitomo Srixon Sports Europe. Under the umbrella we have 3 brands, which is quite unusual in the golf industry these days. So we're quite fortunate in who we can accommodate, the type of golfers. Often golfers, they'll align to a brand, and perhaps as they get older or things change, you know, the equipment perhaps doesn't quite suit them as much. But we're very fortunate in what we have here. We have the Srixon brand, the Cleveland brand, and of course the XXIO brand. I always sort of think if we don't have golf equipment for you, we sell tennis rackets. So we pretty well got it covered in here. An array of shafts, over 200 shafts in here, various fitting heads. And this year we've added fitting options for our hybrids, fairways, and obviously we have drivers, irons, and quite unique in the array of shafts that we can offer in the wedges.
Absolutely. So when someone comes to Clydeway and they want a new set of whether it's irons, drivers or anything really, what is the process going to look like when they step through this door?
I think they'll have a decent idea of what they're sort of looking for and which part of the armoury they're trying to improve in their golf kit, whether it be wedges, even the putters. They have a fantastic studio here at Clydeway as well. So I think generally they'll come with an idea what they're looking, to try and improve on against their current equipment. Obviously, in the Srixon range, the irons are very, very strong, but I think most people will acknowledge over the last few years major victories for Matsuyama, Lowry, and obviously most recently Brooks Koepka. The metalwoods are really starting to come to the fore. I think we were perceived as originally, it was just a ball brand, and then obviously people started to acknowledge the fact that the irons are very good, and now obviously the metalwoods are performing very well.
Yeah, you touched on it there. I mean, we've got some of the players that game the equipment up on the wall here, and most recently Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship. How important is that for you as a brand to see the gear performing on the biggest stage?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of the golfing public, they want sort of tour validation. They want to see, in the cauldron, that is the major championships, and on the big tours, they want to realise that the golf equipment performs, and obviously it does. Even though players, obviously there's some under contract, but there's players who aren't under contract as well who use the equipment, which is it validates it even more so. But players like Brooks and Shane and all these players, and Hannah Green on the LPGA, they're not going to use inferior products. They're going to use the best kit they possibly can. So we're very pleased that they do, and obviously it performs very well.
Yeah, it clearly does. I mean, you touched on some of the names there, but it seems like with Srixon, they've got maybe not the largest group of pros, but a really successful group. Does that make the experience on tour maybe better for these guys, that they don't have a massive group of other players looking to game their clubs? They might get a more personal experience with Srixon.
Almost definitely, it's definitely not the largest amount of professionals on tour within under the umbrella of one company. The fact is, I would say Srixon, obviously a Japanese brand, loyalty is quite important, and we have. I think I'd almost call them ambassadors more so than sort of staff players. We have players like Soren Kjeldsen, Graham McDowell's been with us many, many years, and they still, we still have them on board because it's very important to the Japanese, that sort of loyalty and building a relationship, and not having a huge array of players. Yes, it definitely allows us to spend a lot of time with them and go through their equipment thoroughly. And you can imagine someone like Matsuyama, he's such a massive star in Asia. That we can look after him wherever he's playing in the world.
Srixon, they're maybe considered to be an iron brand in the past, but you look at last weekend, Brooks Koepka using a driver. There really is something for every part of the bag in here, isn't it? Oh,
absolutely. I mean, when I joined the company, it's nearly 20 years ago, effectively, people used to say, who's Srixon? What are you doing working for Srixon? You won't be able to give those balls away, and obviously we can give the balls away. We've obviously done very well, and we've had many victories in the retail market as well. Our brand share is very strong, and then obviously the wedges. Oh yes, you can possibly make a few wedges. You're quite good at that, and obviously it's elevated now into irons. And like you say, the last sort of piece of the jigsaw has been metalwoods. We've had a lot of technologies for quite a while. There's technologies that people have never sort of been aware of that are Srixon technologies. So they've got a good idea of what they're doing. Obviously, and Brooks thought they know what they're doing. Obviously, with the victory, he played very well.
Yeah, you touched on it there. He was also using a Z-Star Diamond golf ball, something that Srixon are becoming increasingly known for. How important is it for someone coming here? They might think about switching into a Srixon ball. So important to know what ball you need to be using for your own game, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, with the data that they can collect here, they would be able to give very good advice. And we have 2-piece and 3-piece balls available during the fitting session. So you can be fitted, if you generally use a 2-piece ball, you can be fitted with an AD treble 3, and we also have a 3-piece Z-Star ball that you can be fitted with. And with that data, you can sort of obviously offer advice on what would be the best ball. And there's lots of reasons people will use golf balls, and it's not always just about performance. There's obviously things like budget to consider, launch angle, durability. So although there's times when people perhaps would, there'd be one ball they absolutely desire, there's times where they may use one ball in the winter where spin isn't quite as important, and then change it to summer. So yeah, hopefully, like the equipment, the golf ball is part of the equipment. We've got it covered. We have a huge array of golf balls and some quite nuanced changes, especially in the Z-Star lineup.
Mm-hmm. Now, if someone is looking at this video and they're looking at this centre and they want to come here, what kind of things are they going to learn about their game when they have a fitting? Say it's 2 hours and you're hitting balls. You've got all the technology here, TrackMan. You've got pretty much every possible combination of shafts and heads. What are you going to take away from this?
I think sometimes, obviously, when you get on a launch monitor, it's absolutely brutally honest. So sometimes the information that you get is not what you want to, especially myself, I'm thinking I do it further than that. But if you bring your own golf equipment, you'll be comparing apples for a start. So same ball, you can make direct comparisons. The data is often, especially when you have a team like they have here, some really good fitters they can sort of basically give you an idea of where your launch angles are, how much the ball's rotating, dispersion, and how that can be improved, and how you can build golf equipment with different shaft types, different lies, face angles on clubs. There's a lot can be done with a golf club, but gaining an understanding of what it will do and how it will improve your game is quite critical, really. There's still, a lot of people have a lot of access to information, but often some of the basics in golf are often overlooked. Just simple things like loft, length, lie. We all get wrapped up into TrackMan data, and yet on tour they do use monitors, but they'll often they have a set of specifics and specifications that they have on their golf clubs that they're very keen on. That they're exactly the same all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes it can just be the smallest changes in loft or lie angle that's going to make the big difference. Yeah,
there's obviously variables as well. Whether some people will prefer a cast club head, with an iron face which is quite springy. Some people will prefer one-piece forging. There's all different things that people want and desire, but sometimes they can be also surprised by something. They can think, I never considered that. It wasn't something I thought about. I always think of cavity wedges, in the fact that the iron sets have compressed in loft so much these days. There's real relevance to having a quiver of wedges, which effectively should be almost called short irons, really. Pitching wedges have gone all the way down. We're seeing wedge lofts at 42, 43. It's not really a wedge, it's effectively an 8.5 iron from what was years gone by. So there's a space in the set there for wedges, and instead of going to a muscle back blade immediately, there's some consideration to using a more forgiving cavity wedge.
Now, we're just outside Glasgow here. I know you'll have been around Europe and probably the world as well, looking at centres where you can go and get fit for clubs. How does this rank to places that you've been? Because to me it looks extremely high tech. I can't imagine there's many better places to come and get fit for a set of golf clubs, is there?
No, it's absolutely fantastic. And when I went through the room with Stuart here at Clydeway, we talked about the dimensions, and he obviously didn't listen to me. He's made it twice as big, which is absolutely fantastic. If you're in a room like this, you know, the last thing you want is that, you know, feeling of claustrophobia. You want, you know, that sort of free space, you know, ceiling height, that the fitter can walk around, you know, you're not feeling that you're going to strike him. But like you say, the level of equipment, the loft and line machine, you know, he can effectively, you know, we have a utility iron with a forged carriage. If someone's desiring, oh, what's it going to be like at 2 up, he can literally bend it there and then. They can, you know, see how it performs, see how the data changes. So it's right up there. I've seen very few rooms that sort of, you know, challenge this for what it is. You know, the space, you know, the aesthetic appeal, everything about it, the equipment. You know, the TrackMan. It's fantastic, really, isn't it? It really is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, make me want to open that shutter up and start hitting balls.
Yep.
Joe, thanks very much for your time.
No problem at all.
Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. No problem.
Excellent.